Coming up, you're invited to Whisky Live. It's a festival about Scotch whisky that's taking place for the very first time in Glasgow, Scotland, with special guests, music, and the very best single malts in the country. All this coming up when Taste the Beverage Show continues.
Smiling people, energetic music, information booths manned by enthusiastic people, elaborate demonstrations, and most importantly, Scotch whiskey. Put all these things together and you have Whisky Live, a world-renowned event that surprisingly hasn't taken place in Scotland until now.
If you've never been to a festival of whiskey, what you'd learn by coming to Whisky Live is two really main things. One, the sheer breadth of whiskey that exists in the world. And that only becomes true when you go into a marquee and you see the hundreds and hundreds of products on display. And the other thing is education. What I'm really obsessed with is trying to make people learn about Scotch whisky, not just drink it, but drink it understanding why it's enjoyable. So we've created here something called the Whisky Experience, which is a huge marquee. Glenfiddich have brought most of their distillery down 150 miles. It was the largest juggernaut I've ever seen, came down with a still on the back of it. As I said, you've got a bit of football, you've got a bit of rugby, and Morrison Bowmore have an educational booth. We've got live music, we've got coopers making and breaking barrels, we've got guitarists, and this all means that you can not only come and drink a whiskey, you can come and sit down, there's food, and there's an environment of fun and an environment of relaxation. So let's face it, drinking good products about having fun, and don't let us ever forget that. So we're trying to encourage that. What it's also doing, we've had fantastic debate in Scotland about promoting Scotch whisky. Scotch is Scotland's biggest export, and yet if you talk to the average man or woman in the street about Scotch, they either don't drink it, they don't know much about it, or they don't have a very good opinion about it. Well, let's hope that the 10th of September was the beginning of the end of that. Having Michael Jackson and Dave Broom here means that the consumers can actually meet someone who understands how to communicate with them. They love meeting writers who actually know how to talk back to them. And all you've got to do is witness a book signing that we hold every couple of hours with Michael Jackson. There'll be a queue going down the hall with people waiting to do it. And that's what it is. They want to talk to someone who can communicate with them in their way, and that's what he can do.
My name is Michael Jackson. I'm the scruffiest person in the whisky industry, and that's one of my claims to fame. There's a picture of me in Whisky magazine in which I look even scruffier. That's kind of computer enhanced in order to get the message home.
Dave's masterclass is a much more what I would call public appeal. Partly because he's got a much more public approach to the way he does it. He's also completely independent. Usually the masterclasses are one company talking about one brand. Our masterclass is about whatever Dave wants to talk about. And so we just want to give people a bit of variety, and Dave gives us that opportunity.
To understand the flavour of the whisky. Forget about learning about all the production process or the history of the distillery to begin with. Pick up the glass, understand the flavour of what is in the glass, then you'll begin to understand the whisky itself. The bizarre thing about Scotland is that the biggest selling spirit in Scotland is vodka. And I think people assume that all Scots people know about whisky, but actually probably the greatest education job really needs to be done in whisky's home. So this is what we're really trying to do, and the reaction has been great. I mean, a lot of locals coming, a lot of people flying over from continental Europe, and yeah, this is going to be a big one.
The other effort is fun.
It's at the crossroads. It really has to, whisky has to be aware that it's now in the 21st century, and it was actually in the 19th century until quite recently. And it's got to kind of wake up and say, not just try and be overly trendy, because you can't market something, yeah, I am trendy. That doesn't work. The consumer is very savvy these days. Consumers don't like being marketed to. The days of people only drinking whisky have gone, I think. I think as far as Scotch whisky goes, we've seen in mature markets as a continued kind of slow decline in blends. It's almost been arrested, but you know, blends are kind of moving out of favour, although they still make up 90% of the whisky that's sold. And that's a major thing that has to be remembered. The obsession is about malts, and great, there's more malts on the market. That's the great thing about whisky, is that it has such a range of flavours and different usage in a whisky for every occasion. You know, it's not just one thing, it's a multitude of things.
Well, we're 4 hours into Whisky Live Glasgow, and certainly the atmosphere inside the show and the feedback we're getting from the visitors is very encouraging, and the plan is to be here every year, and we haven't yet done a show where we don't come back. I didn't start Whisky Live Glasgow for this to be the first year, and only we hope to be here every year, and the feedback really is great.